Hello and welcome, I'm Stormo. This is a game called Ninja Pizza Girl, developed here in Australia and by a family studio called Disparity Games, which consists of the Stark family up on the Gold Coast. There's a couple of interesting things about this game, aside from the fact that it's a sort of family effort, and they've worked really hard on it. And I should probably go the full disclosure route here. I actually backed this game on Kickstarter. I think it was early last year it went on Kickstarter, and I actually backed it. It's the first time I ever backed anything on Kickstarter. There's a couple of really interesting things to talk about with this game. The first is that all the art was done by the developer's daughter, and she's about, I think she's about 17, thereabouts, or she was when she drew this anyway. So you're a teenager and you're sort of wondering where your art skills can get you, then, well, I'll tell you right now, it can get you into a video game. And I've played through this bit already, but I haven't put huge amounts of time into it, but I am familiar with it. As you can see, it is a side-scrolling platform game. Now, you might be wondering what separates this side-scrolling platform game from all the other side-scrolling platform games you've ever played. There's a couple of things. The first is that it's, as you can probably tell, about timing and speed. And if it reminds you a little bit of the Mirror's Edge mobile game, then that's probably my first, well, that was my first thought too, that reminded me a bit of that. You can see it's got the jumping and ducking mechanics that game had. Interestingly, it's not an auto-running game though, like that game is. If you ever played Mirror's Edge on the iPad, you would know that it had this interesting auto-running mechanic. I keep running into obstacles here, which is not showing the game off in the best light, but I'll try. And yeah, so basically the way it works is you just run forward, you got to jump, time your jumps, and the goal essentially is to get where you need to go without running into things and without running out of time, which we've managed to do here. And we can go to the next delivery. There is a story mode to all this, which I apparently am not playing in at the moment. I thought I was, but apparently I'm not. And yeah, you can do wall jumping and all that kind of stuff. You're basically this girl who is a ninja, and she delivers pizzas, which is pretty cool. And I've actually had the privilege of meeting the Stark family at PAX Australia last year, and it was explained to me then that a lot of the stuff that happens in the game is based on their daughter's real-world experience as a pizza delivery girl, including one particular funny sequence, which I was hoping the game would show then, but it didn't, because apparently I'm not running in story mode. One particularly funny moment where a pizza was delivered to a person who was not fully clothed at the time, and there's a particularly amusing part of the story in regards to that. Oh, it hurt pretty hard. As you can probably tell, falling damage is expressed by the screen going more and more black and white, and you can also mitigate your falling damage by pressing the B button. I'm playing this on the controller, so it's the B button on the controller, and I recommend playing this game on the controller, by the way. You can mitigate fall damage. B also ducks, like that. Oops, messed that up. And like all good ninjas, she can actually wall jump, because you can't be a ninja without doing the wall flip, like that. And I think we've made it to the end of this stage. I'm gonna head back out to see why I'm not in story mode, because that would have been really cool. But I am in story mode, surely. So, yeah, I am. Okay. I thought I was in story mode. Anyway, whatever. Maybe it's just because I've finished some of the levels, so we'll keep going with the third one. Yeah, okay, so where was I before I decided to try and figure out how to play the game properly? Oh, that's right, yeah. So I was talking about having met the developers of this game at PAX Australia last year, and at that time the game actually ran a bit differently than it does now. It was actually an auto-running game, and you're about to see one of the really important aspects of this game, and I need to get into what I think this game elevates this game above sort of other side-scrolling platforms you might be able to play on Steam, and I'm not going to be able to do that if I keep running into ninjas. But you might have noticed then when I ran into that ninja that he didn't immediately die. Instead, he sort of stopped and pointed and laughed at me. And that's kind of how this game works. Basically, instead of like having health or anything like that, you basically have self-confidence. And the more you stuff up, the more you make mistakes, the more you run into the other ninjas, the more your self-confidence goes. And so the idea is not to lose all your self-confidence, and if you do, you'll sort of break down. You won't actually die. What will happen is you'll just sort of collapse, and you'll lose time. You have to press the button to sort of get yourself back up and all that. And it comes about because... So I got the first one, but not the second one, because you have to hit the button twice. It comes about because... and I'm doing really badly here. The timing for the slide attack is actually a bit awkward, so that's why that's happening. And I just jumped over that ninja, so that's cool. But yeah, and you can see that as I go like running and not getting bumped into ninjas, I regain my self-confidence. If you run out of basically your self-confidence or self-esteem or whatever it actually is, I can't remember the exact what they refer to it in the game, but if you run out of it, you basically collapse and you have to mash the button to get yourself back up, and it will cost you time. You won't die or anything like that. You can still complete the level, but you'll run out of time, and if you run out of time, then you won't complete the level. So you've just got to be aware of that. Most of the time, even having it once seems to be enough that you'll run out and fail a level, so you got to be really careful with it. And the time limits are pretty tight. They're not that bad if you're able to do it without messing around. I got those two pretty well there. Oh, but I messed that one up. And you see what happens too is all the ninjas that are on the screen actually stop and point and laugh at you. And apparently the whole thing came about because the Stark family were sitting around the dinner table one night and they were thinking about developing a game that Nicole and Jason, who are the parents in this scenario, I feel terrible because I'm not quite representing everything exactly as it should be, but ow, that was really hard. There we go, we knocked him down anyway. You can do that too. But yeah, they were sitting around the dinner table and basically trying to come up with ideas for a new game, and they were sort of, they had some ideas, but they needed ideas for what kind of enemies they can include in the game, and so they asked their daughters what the worst kind of enemies they faced in their school, and there you go, I ran out of time in that mission, so yep. So we'll have to repeat that one without running into ninjas. The girls came up with the idea that their worst enemies were in fact other teenagers. And in fact that's kind of the point of all the ninjas in the game, is that they're actually other teenagers who work for a sort of pizza mega corporation that your tiny little independent pizza shop is fighting against. Not fighting against, trying to compete against. And yeah, so that was kind of how the idea for the story came out, and I'm doing really badly. There we go, got those two, that's nice and easy. I'm gonna run out of time again, I reckon. I've got to stop running into the barriers. But yeah, so, and it came about because they wanted a game that, instead of, you know, fighting and bashing up people and stuff like that, you instead just sort of had to get through every day. And so all these ninjas are basically other teenagers and that's why they point and laugh at you when you stuff up, because they're making fun of you. And that's why it affects your self-confidence, your self-belief, more than it might affect your life, your health. Because let's face it, she's a ninja, she can do all these kinds of crazy jumps, and I failed again. This level's hard. And I think that's a really cool concept, and I really like the idea of the game being based around this self-confidence mechanic, and I think it expresses it well. I think that's the most important part, especially when you're doing a game like this where you have, I guess, a message to put out, or you want to communicate a message, and there are different ways to do that, and sometimes it's easy to fall into a trap as a game designer, I guess, of and see, I just skip those ninjas and they chase me. Oh, yeah. And I think it's sometimes easy to fall into a trap of sort of missing the point of the message you're trying to go for in a game. And it's you've got to be pretty smart. I'm trying to talk and concentrate and playing the game at the same time, so you've got to be pretty smart about getting that message across and making sure that you implement it in a way that doesn't compromise the game you're making, but at the same time gets your message across. And this isn't easy. This is actually like a real challenge for a lot of people who do game design. Am I going to make this? I'm not going to make it, am I? Oh no. And it's right here too. I know exactly where it is. So I think I might be going the wrong way through this level. But yeah, and I really appreciate the way the game has this really cool message that it's going for. And I think that the developers, and I'm just going to admit that I'm not that great at this game yet. I'm still learning it. Part of it is just learning the timing for everything, and part of it is just me not being... My platforming skills come from the early 90s, and they've rusted a lot in the intervening years. So I've got to rebuild them to get good at this game. I think I mentioned before too that I played this game a bit at PAX Australia last year, and I got to speak to Jason, who's one of the developers and obviously one of the founders of Disparity Games. And I mentioned to him at the time that I thought it was interesting that the game borrowed from the iPad Mirror's Edge game, where it was an automatic runner. And at that time, the game actually was an automatic runner. It's not anymore. I can actually stop by taking my hand off the D-pad, which is what I'm using. You can probably use the analog stick too. But yeah, and he actually hadn't played that game and wasn't aware of it, and that's fair enough. I'm not going to criticise him for that. It is a good game and worth playing, but I did mention to him that it reminded me a lot of that game, and I failed again. It's just over there. There's only one route through this level, I'm sure of it, and maybe I'm doing things slightly wrong. There are different ways to get through most of the levels, like variations that you can take, and again, that's very much like the Mirror's Edge game. And see, I can't go that way. But that's again very much like the Mirror's Edge iPad game. But I don't want to spend too much time comparing this to that, although there is another connection with this game, Mirror's Edge, which is that Rihanna Pratchett, who of course was the writer for Mirror's Edge, helped out a bit on the story for this game, so it's got a bit of pedigree for that. That was actually one of the Kickstarter backer goals, was that if they reached a certain level, they would get Rihanna Pratchett to help out. She offered to do that for them, and they did reach that goal, and so they did get Rihanna Pratchett, which is really cool, because she's a really cool writer, and you played any of the games she's been involved in, they've always been really interesting. Mirror's Edge especially, which is one of my favourite games, both the original version and the iPad version. In fact, I have a comic that she wrote for Mirror's Edge. It was given to me as a birthday present. I'm not going to pretend it's a particularly great comic, but if you're into the Mirror's Edge series, it's well worth checking out this little side story comic that just adds a bit of flavour to that world. But anyway, we're talking about ninjas and pizza delivery, and I've failed again. I cannot do this level. And I suspect that if anyone from Disparity Games is watching this video, they're just looking at me going, no, you're supposed to do that, you're supposed to go that way, you're not... And I'm just like, I'm so sorry, guys. Like, I really like this game, and I'm just terrible at it. I promise I will get better. My problem is I keep bumping into things and stopping it, and I just haven't got the flow right. That's what this game really is about. Again, like Mirror's Edge. And again, like both versions of Mirror's Edge. I missed that jump. I missed that. Like the iPad version, which was a side-scroller, and the main version, which is a first-person sort of running game, they're both very much about flow, and this game is very much the same. And to be perfectly honest with you, I'm not bothered by the fact that there are similarities between this game and Mirror's Edge, because I love Mirror's Edge. I love both versions of Mirror's Edge, the iPad mobile version, and the main version, the first-person version. They were both really cool games, and they both did really interesting things with that world and that concept. And the original Mirror's Edge was one of the first sort of attempts at creating this style of platformer on a mobile platform. Yeah, and so I think that even if this game didn't draw its inspiration from that game, and I have every reason to suggest that if they hadn't played it, they hadn't played it. I met the developers, and they're really cool people. So I have every reason to believe that that's the case. But even if it wasn't, it's not a bad place to have drawn any inspiration from anyway, and it's not a bad template to follow. It was a fun game, and it was one of the best early mobile games on the iPad. And this is a really good implementation of many of the same ideas, just done differently, you know. Finally, I made that. Yay. But I stuffed that up. And so, yeah, you can see that the ninjas insult me and call me a loser when I stuff up, and they laugh at you, which is really funny, and I'm just, oh wow, I'm messing everything up. I can do this, guys. I seriously can. I'm sure I can do this. I'm not going to do it this time, though, am I? No, not now. Yeah, and this is what happens when you fail. So basically she collapses. You have to mash the A button or the spacebar if you're playing on the keyboard, which I'm not. And that costs you a huge amount of time. And you've noticed that I already lose a lot of time on this level, so you'll notice that I don't have any time. I'm not going to get anywhere near where I need to go. But that's okay, because I've actually already completed this level and I can actually move on to the next one. I think I've already completed this level. It did take me a couple of tries though, so with that in mind, I should probably talk a bit more about the mechanics of the game. I'll go back to pizza delivery. Okay, so there's different... Okay, well this is the final level, and I haven't actually completed this one. As you can see, that was the previous one. Oh no, this is the level. Oh. Okay, fine. I'm just terrible at this game. I'll show you some other levels. I think I can access more levels later on, like the other sections of the game, so I'll do that just as we go through here. I like the music of this game too. It's not anything outstanding, I guess, but it just, you know, it moves. It sounds pretty good. It's the kind of music I like listening to anyway, so, you know, and I'm always a big fan of electronic music in general. Tends to be kind of the music I prefer to listen to most of the time. So, yeah, it's good that it's got that. I suspect that there's a platform up there that I'm missing all the time too, so there, got that. You do have a jump kick as well, if I wasn't clear on that too. If you're in the air and you hit the jump button again while you're in the air, you get to jump kick, not jump click. So, something worth keeping in mind. See, this is what we were missing before, this section here. Ow. Nearly made it. There, we finally made this level. Okay. See guys, I can do it. In fact, I got a better rating that time than I did normally. So you get to see the story mode here. And yeah, this seems to happen a lot. No pants, no pizza. That's kind of a tagline for the game too. So yeah, and this is the story that the game goes on. I think I mentioned before, the art is done by a 17-year-old girl, and I think that's fantastic. She's done a really good job with this. The game looks great. I really love the look of it. I also really like the mechanics of it, although I have to admit, I think I mentioned before too that I've found the timing with the jump kicks to be a little bit unsteady. Maybe it's just me and my lack of skill at this kind of thing, but I just find that I have a lot of trouble with the attacks, which is why I keep bumping into the ninjas. So I'm not sure if that's just a skill thing on my part, or if there is an issue with timing in the game. Ah, hang on. I didn't know I could do that. Shouldn't probably spend too much time doing it, because there is a time limit. You've always got to be aware of that time limit, because it is pretty tight. But yeah, so I wasn't actually aware that you could do those things, but I think that's the first time I've encountered one too. What else is there to say about this game? Oh, it's available on Steam Early Access right now. That's the other important thing to mention. It's just launched this week, I think. So it is coming out, and you can get it. And this isn't like one of those early access games where it's actually basically not even really a game before it comes out. Now, being a Kickstarter backer, I actually got access to a beta. Oh, geez, that's bad. I'm going to fail. Yep. being a Kickstarter backer, I actually got access to this game before it went up on early access, so I've actually had it for about a week, so I've had a bit of time to put into it as well. But yeah, it is now up on early access, and unlike a lot of stuff that goes up on Steam early access these days, this is a mostly complete game. Like, this is really just up here for bug fixing and just getting the final polish of the game right. It's not one of those games where they've just put like an unfinished concept even into it, and you've just got to go, well, what's the point, you know? So this is a proper game that you can buy on early access. You're not going to get screwed over by developers on this one, trust me on that. Like, I've had access to the game for a little while now. It is fully available and ready to be played right now as it is. They just want to put a final level of polish on it from the look of it, and that's fine. That's what early access should be for. And I'm sure we've all watched enough Jim Sterling videos to know that about Steam early access. So I'm getting the hang of this one now. I think this is a really cool game. I like what it's trying to do. I like the story it's trying to tell. I like the message it has too. Like, I actually have my girlfriend has a 17-year-old daughter who, like the girl that drew all the stuff for this game, is a really talented artist, but she does also suffer from a lot of self-confidence issues, and you know, she works hard to get through that, but she's had some pretty difficult times with school and various other things, and I think a game like this can really help someone like that, just because it shows, you know, you're not alone in that kind of thing, and you know, you can be this cool ninja girl and deliver pizzas and do all that kind of stuff. And yeah, and still, you know, but yeah, as the game points out, your worst enemy as a teenager is other teenagers, and that's kind of the story. That's kind of the message it's trying to point out, that, you know, you're not, you know, it isn't all terrible, and you're going to get better later on. And I really hope. I actually really want to show this game off to my girlfriend's daughter, because I think she'll get a real kick out of it, especially because of the artwork, the fact that it's done by a girl her own age and everything like that. And yeah, and so I think that, oh, am I doing slightly better, or am I doing worse? Oh, I've gone the wrong way again. I keep going the wrong way. I'm terrible at this. I'm so sorry to the Stark family. I'm so sorry, guys, that I haven't shown this game off. I don't know if they'll see this video. They probably will. I'm gonna tweet it at them once it goes live. So, but yeah, this is Ninja Pizza Girl. It is genuinely a really good game. Like I say, it's up on Steam Early Access, but don't be put off by that. It's actually on Steam Early Access because they know how to use Steam Early Access for what it's meant to be used for. Ow, I died. I think they need to fix the timing on that, but maybe I just need to get better at the game. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say on this. Highly recommend checking it out. If you've been burned by early access in the past, don't worry, this game is not going to do that to you, because you're already getting a more or less finished game at this point. There's just little bits to go, as I said before. So yeah. Oh wow, you could do that. I didn't know that. Didn't see that one before. Okay, let's see what we can do here. I'm going to make one more attempt at finishing this level, and then we'll call it a video. No, don't do that! Ah, no. There we go. Ah. We gonna make it? Are we gonna make it? No, probably not, but we're close. No, we made it! Yes! Excellent! I did it! I did the level! I didn't get any of the collectibles, but I did the level. That's the important part. Interesting. Anyway, that was Ninja Pizza Girl. I highly recommend checking this game out. And yeah, thank you all for watching. I'll see you all next time.